My grandfather and my father did not want her to study, for what they wanted was for her to be a good housewife, a good mother, a good caretaker. In our house, I grew up with much fear, as I had to keep inside my heart all my desire for freedom and curiosity for what was happening in the outside world. As a result, I developed a passion for reading books, and I had another passion to write poetry. Growing up, I had to maintain the belief that girls certainly must be inferior to boys. For boys could play in a big field, whereas girls had to play with their dolls in a corner of the house. My brothers could go anywhere they wanted, could watch any games, could play anything they wanted to play. I could not. My sister couldn't. I was told that girls were not made for such activities, that their role was to stay home, learn how to cook, make beds, clean the house. My mother was not the only woman who was oppressed, for I saw that my aunts, my neighbors, and other acquaintances who were playing the same roles, and they too were oppressed. In our minds, torture of women is not oppression, but rather is tradition. We become accustomed to tradition. As I grew up, I realized that I was a part of that tradition, and also that I was likewise being oppressed the same as my female classmates and later my female patients. I realized that whether women are poor or rich, beautiful or ugly, they have blue or black or brown eyes, they have white, black or brown skin, they are unmarried or married, illiterate or literate, all are oppressed. Everywhere women are oppressed, and all because of male-devised patriarchy, religion, tradition, culture, and customs. Nobody told me to protest, but I developed a strong feeling that it was important to fight against oppression. Nobody asked me to shed a tear, but I did. When I started writing prose that was published weekly in the newspapers, I found that my protests attracted the attention of readers, that people either hated me or they loved me. One by one, my books got published. However, those who hated for what I wrote organized demonstration against me, and people began protesting by marching through the streets. In 1992, at a national book fair, my books were publicly burned, and I was thrown out of the event. I was not even allowed to visit the book fair anymore because the fair's leader said my books were causing the problems. In 1993, I returned, but this time the fundamentalists and an angry mob assaulted me publicly, breaking into the bookshops where my books were kept. The government then confiscated my passport, asking me not to write anymore if I hoped to keep my job as a medical doctor in a public hospital. In protest, I quit my job. My passport, however, was not returned until a year later, when an international human rights campaign outside Bangladesh's border successfully pressured the government. I continued writing. In my poetry, prose, and essays and novels, I have defended women and minority communities that are being oppressed. I cried loudly for equality and justice, justice for all people, whatever their religion or gender. I spoke loudly upon behalf of secularism. I spoke against any religious laws in which women are oppressed. My books got banned by the government. In our society, I have witnessed that women are flogged, they are stoned to death, women are raped, are accused of permitting the rape, and the rapists are set free. Women have been suffering from trafficking, from slavery, from all sorts of discrimination. Men have thrown acid on women's face and then walk away as happy men. For a typical couple, the most unwanted thing is a female baby. If a female baby is born, either the wife is forced to get divorced, or for her crime of having given birth to a female, or else the wife must spend her life with disgrace. By writing books, I wanted to do something constructive. I wanted to help women understand that they are oppressed but must not be oppressed. I wanted to encourage them to fight for their rights and freedom. My voice, however, gave women the chance to think differently. That did not make the religionists or the male chauvinists happy. As a result, the fundamentalists took the stand of absolutely refusing to tolerate any of my views. They objected to a woman breaking her chains and becoming free. And they could not tolerate my saying that the Quran is out of place, out of time, and that secular law with the uniform civil code for women is an absolute necessity. The fundamentalists issued fatwa against me and set price on my head. They broke into newspaper offices, sued my editors, publishers, and me. They demanded my execution by hanging. Hundreds of thousands of people took to the street. I think they commit ultimate blasphemy by thinking that they need to protect their God, rather God should protect them. They called general strike all over the country, demanding that I be killed. Countrywide violence was executed by the fanatics. The government, instead of taking action against them, took action against me. The government of Bangladesh filed a case against me, charging that I had hurt the religious feelings of the people. I had no other alternative but to go into hiding. While in hiding, I was fortunate to receive the support of the Western democratic governments, writers' organization, and human rights activists. They literally helped to save my life. I was absolutely certain that I would be killed, for every day I saw mobs of people demanding my death. Police looked everywhere for me, knowing that the fundamentalists wanted me dead. Anyway, I survived, and finally in 1994, I was forced to leave my country. Since then, I have been trying to go back to my country, but I am not permitted to return. In the meantime, many of my books are banned in Bangladesh. I have written more than 30 books, and cases have been filed against me in order to ban many of my other books. A Bangladesh court sentenced me to 1 year in prison for having written what I did. My crime was that I said it is dangerous to follow the religious scripture in this modern world. All the religious scriptures, including the Quran, are out of time and out of place. My crime was that I said we need no religious law, no Muslim law, no Hindu law, no Christian law, no Jewish law. If it's not easy to eliminate oppressive religious system, but we can at least try to make a change. Both the Judeo-Christian Bible and the Quran clearly accept and condone slavery. Jesus explicitly tells slaves to accept their roles and obey their masters. But no one in the world today would defend chattel slavery in any public forum or allow it to exist under any legal code. Neither fundamentalist Christian nor Orthodox Jews talk about animal sacrifice or slavery. Even in those countries in which Sharia law is practiced, where stoning for adultery and amputation for stealing are legalized, no legitimization of slavery is ever mentioned. Polygamy and concubinage are clearly accepted in the Old Testament, but nowhere in Judeo-Christian world are either of these practices actually legalized. Thus, the insistence that continuation of practices which denigrate, oppress, and suppress women under the guise of scriptural reference is a hoax. Such practices could and should be delegitimized, just as chattel slavery has been delegitimized. I think that humankind is facing an uncertain future. The probability of new kinds of rivalry and conflict looms large. In particular, the conflict is between the two different ideas, secularism and fundamentalism. I don't agree with those who think the conflict is between religions or between the East and the West. To me, the conflict is basically between rational, logical mind and irrational, blind faith. To me, this is a conflict between modernism and barbarism. While some strive to go forward, others strive to go backward. This is a conflict between innovation and tradition, between those who value freedom and those who do not. I have been writing about women's rights and freedom, but my freedom of expression has been continuously violated by the authorities. I have not been able to reach the readers of my country. All parts of my memoir and other books have been banned in my country. My autobiography, I realize, is not just my life story. It is the same story that thousands of women know about. It tells how women live in a patriarchal society that possesses hundreds of traditions in which girls and women suffer. I have looked back into my childhood days and described the life of being a female child, told how I was brought up, explained that I had privileges that many others didn't have. I was able to study and become a medical doctor, something which thousands of girls cannot even dream about. I wanted to show where and how I grew up and what made me think differently, what made me do things differently. It is important to give other women some strength to revolt against the oppressive system that I grew up under and which still continues to oppress them. I told the truth. I expressed everything that happened in my life. Normally it is taboo to reveal rape or attempted rape by male members of one's family. Girls shut their mouth because they are terribly ashamed. But I did not shut my mouth. I did not care what people would say to me or to my family. I know well that many women feel that I am telling their untold stories too. We, the victims, should cry out loud. We need to be heard. We must protest loudly and demand our freedom and rights. We must refuse to be shackled, chained, beaten, and threatened. If women do not fight to stop being oppressed by a shameful patriarchal and religious system, then shame on women. Shame on us for not protesting, for not fighting. Shame on us for permitting a system to continue to persist that will traumatize our daughters. My story is not a unique one. My experiences have unfortunately been shared by millions of fellow sufferers. In my book, I cried for myself. I also cried for all the others who have not been able to enjoy the productive life of which they are capable and which they most assuredly deserve. We who are women must no longer remain solitary, crying softly in lonely places. My secular humanist friends, we know that many people say that Islamic fundamentalists kill infidels or they want to kill infidels or non-believers but in the name of Islam, but it is not real Islam. Yes, we hear that Islam does not support the killing of innocent people. Allah never advocates killing. The killings are the work of a few misguided individuals at the fringe of society. Islam, the real Islam, is against violence. Islam means peace. Islam means tolerance. But is this true? Does Islam really preach peace, tolerance, and non-violence? Those Muslims who perpetrate crimes in the name of Islam think differently. They believe that what they do is a jihad or a holy war. They say that killing the non-believers is mandatory for every Muslim. Those who blow